And to trending now. Well, the topic tonight has kind of touched on identity politics. That's that intellectual and moral rot that's turning us into idiots. And as it happens, there's news today about one of the key symbols of this idiocy. I'm not talking about Bruce Pascoe now. I'm talking about Elizabeth Warren. She's now conceded she should never have pretended she was an American Indian. Now, Warren is one of the top candidates to become the Democrats' candidate to be the next president of the United States. And for years, she has claimed to be descended from Cherokee Indians.
I'm very proud of my heritage. Being Native American is part of who our family is.
Now, being Indian was very useful for her. It seems to have helped Warren in her academic career. And here's the important bit. Nobody in those universities that called her an Indian and boasted about their affirmative hiring policy, that's the University of Pennsylvania and Harvard University, none of them questioned whether she actually was an Indian, despite looking as Indian as me. And almost no one in the media dared say, hey, this is crazy. In fact, many journalists were horrified when along came Donald Trump and just teased her, even in front of real Indians.
You have a representative in Congress who they say was here a long time ago. They call her Pocahontas. But you know what? I like you because you are special.
In fact, Trump teased her so much about being an Indian that she took a DNA test. And was so embarrassed. I mean, it turns out that perhaps just one of her 1,024 great-great-great-great-great-great-great-grandparents was Indian. And now Warren has fessed up.
I shouldn't have done it. I am not a person of color. I am not a citizen of a tribe. And I have apologized for confusion I've caused.
Now, normally on Trending Now, I'm joined by Daisy Cousins. She's gone on early Christmas break. So I'm joined instead by James Bolt, who's one of the co-hosts of the Young IPA podcast and the most clued in about social media in my family. James, thank you so much for joining me.
Absolute pleasure.
Now, you know, if it wasn't for Donald Trump, Elizabeth Warren would still be an Indian. So what does that say?
Well, first off, I just hope that she let those bowlers return to their game. I don't know why she interrupted a bowling tournament to do that one. But look, I actually disagree with that one because, like, I remember the first time I heard that Elizabeth Warren might not actually be Native American was actually from The Atlantic, like this online publication in America. And it's interesting to me because now, like, The Atlantic breaks it, and then whenever Elizabeth Warren comes out and says, like, oh, I should never have done it, it's like a day of memes on the internet, everyone weighs in, it's on CNN. But, you know, with Bruce Pascoe, which you were talking about earlier in the show, because of the way 18C is set up here in Australia and because of our free speech laws, only people with, you know, Sky's legal team and Herald Sun legal teams are even are even allowed to go anywhere near it. But, you know, for regular people, it's just like that is a one-way ticket to get sued.
It so is, and that's true. You could do that in America with much more freedom. But look, I take your point about The Atlantic, and there were a couple, I said not all, but most of the media. Most of the media did not go near there, and this. Don't forget, she's been doing this for like several decades. Yeah. And when Trump started calling her Pocahontas, am I allowed to laugh, or am I going to get sued?
I think you're allowed to laugh at Elizabeth Warren. I think she's got.
Okay.
Yeah.
When he started calling her Pocahontas, he got slammed for it, and yet now she's fessed up. She should never have called. How did this get away for so long?
Well, just because, you know, it fits a narrative, and no one wants to be the first person to break the story that someone's not as Native American as they thought they were. But for Elizabeth Warren, you have got to stop talking about this. Like this, she said it before, like I shouldn't have said it. She comes out, like the second you get the DNA test back and it tells you that you're 1,024th Native American, you bury that so far deep in the, like no one should ever find it. It's like that scene at the end of Indiana Jones, like they're only able to find it after thousands of years of looking through a warehouse. Like you do not want to talk about this ever again.
Yeah,
but you're bringing it up every 2 weeks.
I spotted a flaw in your reasoning. It's called Donald Trump.
Yes.
Now, he's got to keep talking about it. But this is the point. Without Donald Trump, she would still be an Indian. And I'm just struck how she has not been laughed out of the Democrat race. She is still right in there with a hot chance against Joe Biden.
Yeah, so there's two issues there. There's one, the media wants her to win, and then the second is that there's no obvious candidate to take over.
Well, there is Joe Biden.
Yes.
Now, speaking of Joe Biden. Look, I don't want to pick on the bloke. What is he? How old is he?
Old.
Old.
Yes.
He's old, thank you. Yeah, so's your father. Here's the latest example of Joe Biden, who is the poll favourite in the Democrat race, the former Vice President Barack Obama, talking to voters about workers losing $1.2 billion in unpaid overtime or something. Have a listen.
$1.2 billion. So you go ahead and you stack spaghetti sauce at a store and in a supermarket. You control the guy or the woman who brings out the carts on a forklift. What?
Now, James, that's a clip that goes around the world. People laugh and laugh at it. And yet the bloke's still standing. The bloke,
at least 3 times today.
And last week we laughed at the other one about where he talked about the hair on his legs standing up and children.
Well, that was an old one. If you're going to bring up something from last week, you need to bring up when he challenged an unruly person at a town hall to a push-up contest.
And called him fat.
Yeah, and called him fat.